Right, for those of you who are interested in my animation there of the welders, I've put together a little video. It's not of the one I actually displayed, because I made it and forgot to film it. So I hope this is instructional enough. Enjoy. Okay, so we'll start by building the Sparks Splash LED. I always have a battery with a built-in resistor for testing stuff as I go. Here's the circuit. It's a 470 ohm resistor, 8th watt. Works perfectly. So here I am. I test the the LED, make sure it's working. Okay, so for the sparks, or the splash as I call it, I use a piece of plastic fiber optic cable. I got this out of a cheap toy. Hold it in a piece of clip and super glue it to the LED that I just tested earlier. Kind of have to hold it and wait for the glue to set, and you let go. There's the LED glued on the end of the fiber optic. Now what I should have done before this part, and I'm going to show you afterwards, is I kind of lightly cut the fiber optic, and this makes it sparkle all down its length, which looks like sparks. Kind of hard to see there because it's a bit out. Okay, so now we have to build the workpiece that we're going to be apparently welding. So I use a little piece of styrene, cut it to whatever shape you want. You could use an old train part. I burn a hole in it, or a kind of a track in it with a piece of hot wire, paint her up to look like metal. For my LEDs, for the actual weld torch that goes on the guy, I use thin transformer wire. Now this stuff has got a shellac coating on it, so it has to be scraped off and tinned before you can really use it. So I take a length, I fold it in half, and then I twist it up. Now I usually have a little clip on a drill, and I give it a whirl and it twists it all together. For this demo I'm just showing you with a piece of hand. So here we are. This is a bit out of focus, I'm afraid, but it's scraping off the shellac. Don't know if you can see that, and then I solder it to tin the wire. You'll better tell when it's done. You'll see the ends of the wire will be silver in colour, and that means that you've got the shellac off and you'll better make contact on the wire. And I open up one of the nano chips. They come on a strip there, and they're in a little plastic case. You have to get them out. I'm using 0603s here, which are actually bigger than some of the ones I use. The old 402s are half the size of these, but you wouldn't see anything on the camera, so I'm using these bigger ones. It's the same process, you just have to have better eyes and a steadier hand. I don't know if you can see the chip there. There's that little dot in the distance there. So I'm picking it up with the front of the chip facing up, so when you turn it over, you've got the back of the chip to you where you can solder onto the, and here it is here, pretty close here. So I'm going to tin the chip as well, because it's easy to solder stuff if you've got it pre-tinned. You can screw around and the heat will actually destroy the chip if you give it too much. So let me hold the wires that are previously tinned on and just touch it, and touch the other side. And this one you can see I missed, and it's still loose. You just have another go. It's not actually a very good joint there, but you get the idea. Okay, so once it's soldered on, I usually give it a quick test with my battery again, and then when you're doing it with the battery, you'll find that sometimes you connect it, it doesn't work. Switch the wires around. Whichever one the red was on is the positive, and then I tie a knot in the wire to identify it, so I know which way to connect it. Then you pick one of your figures. I've not got any that really look like welders, but you could possibly take this guy and bend his arm up a bit and cut the tile off the end of his, because he's supposed to be a tiler, and make a little gun out of a piece of wire, and then super glue this on the end. I paint the wires black and make it look like the cable going to the gun, and then I'd actually even cut a little face mask for him and maybe a hard hat. So once you've done that, you super glue him to the base that you're going to make the diorama on, Here I am, I've got the workpiece that I painted, I've glued that on, I've positioned the welder with the tip of the gun at the hole that I burned in it. I'm now going to super glue the splash piece of fibre optic tubing with a little LED on the bottom. I'll glue that into position behind the hole. I'll hold it down with the toothpick and make sure you don't grab the end that's got super glue on, otherwise you'll glue it to your fingers and that won't be good. Okay, so that was that set. That's good. Then I just paint a little bit more super glue on the wires to make sure it's fixed, and voila, that's that done. And again, we plug her onto the battery, make sure everything's good in case wires have fell off while you're doing it. Now I'm making a little weld machine, so I've got a little block of styrene there, and I glue that down, drill a hole to get the wires that are supposed to be coming from it to the weld gun, fish them through. And like I say, they're painted black, so it looks like the wires. You better, put some paint and whatever on the base when you're finished and make it look like a dirty old weld scene. And again, I test the LEDs to make right. So that's basically the electronics. Now on the end of the wires, you have to identify which is which. Put a couple of resistors and then connect it to the Arduino and run a sketch to make it flash. So I'll try and put a link on for the sketch that I used to give you an idea. It's basically a modification of one of the examples on the Arduino website. That's it. Then it's a case of painting up the details and putting a bit of ground cover on the base and setting her in your scene.